this is your history video. I want to do a lecture for you today on another queen. We read about Catherine the Great in Russia. I want to talk about another queen. Her name is Queen Victoria. She had a very different kind of upbringing than Catherine. She was born on May 24th, 1819 at Kensington Palace in London. Her father was Edward. He was the Duke of Kent, and her mother was Princess Victoria of Germany. Victoria lived the life of a young royal. Her mother was very protective of her. She had little contact with other children, spending most of her days with adult tutors. As she grew older, she enjoyed painting, drawing, and writing in her diary. When Victoria was born, she was 5th in line for the crown of England. It seemed unlikely that she would ever be queen. But after several of her uncles failed to have children, she became heir to the throne of the current king, William IV. So when King William IV died in 1837, Victoria became Queen of the United Kingdom. She was just 18 years old. Her official coronation took place on June 28, 1838. She was committed to being a good queen and restoring people's faith in the monarchy. She didn't know a lot about how to govern as an 18-year-old, but she made a good friend and tutor in Prime Minister Lord Melbourne. And Melbourne advised her on political issues and had a lot of influence over her in the start of her reign. Then, in 1839, a year after her coronation, a German prince named Albert came to visit the royal court, and Victoria just fell immediately in love with Albert. 5 days later, they got engaged, and they were soon married. Victoria loved married life. They were very, very happy together. They had 9 children. Albert became her confidant and helped her to navigate the politics of England. But he didn't try to take over. She was queen. Okay? And the Victorian era, as it is called, was a time of prosperity and peace for Great Britain. It was a time of industrial expansion, building of railroads. One of the achievements of her time period was the Great Exhibition of 1851. A huge building called the Crystal Palace was built in London that housed a number of technological exhibits from around the world. Prince Albert himself was very involved in the planning, and it was a huge, huge success. People were so terrified of this Crystal Palace. It was built entirely of glass, and nobody had ever, thought of such a thing. And they were for sure the glass was going to fall down on them at any moment. The roof would cave in, and so what Queen Victoria did is and Prince Albert did is have an army regiment march around and around inside the Crystal Palace to try to make the roof fall in, just to make sure it was safe. So their boots are stomping, and they're trying to get the palace to fall down. Well, it didn't, and it was a stunning success. Once people were brave enough to go in, they loved it. Seeing all the displays, kind of like, a World's Fair, this great exposition of 1851. 10 years later, in 1861, Albert passed away. He had developed typhoid fever, and Victoria went into a deep depression. She withdrew from all politics. At one point, people wondered if she was even fit to rule anymore. She was so distraught over the loss of her husband. But eventually she recovered and began to take a strong interest again in the British Empire and its colonies. So it has expanded around the world. Of course, it lost its colonies in America thanks to the American Revolution, but has colonies in other parts of the world. She was particularly interested in India, and she gained the title the Empress of India. Her 9 children went off and married lots of the royalty of Europe. She is often called the grandmother of Europe because so many of Europe's monarchs are related to her. Her first son Edward became king after her and married a princess from Denmark. Her daughter Victoria, the Princess Royale, married the Emperor of Germany. Other children married royals from other areas of Europe, including Russia. And she died on January 22nd, 1901. Okay. Queen Victoria and the Victorian era. Really, really fascinating period of history. And it's kind of interesting to compare Catherine and Victoria, these two powerful women ruling in various parts of the world.